Good morning, everybody. I love seeing everyone's cameras on, everyone's smiling. So look, this is effectively our last session for the year. And I want to make sure that whether you choose to continue with us or you don't, that's your choice, that you have what you need to complete what we've been working on. Right. So, what I find in large groups of people is when one person has a question that's nice enough and courageous to share, it's generally what a good group of people are actually thinking as well. So I want to take this time to really walk you guys through where everyone is stuck. So this is going to be a Q&A. So ready? I actually have been doing this a lot in other groups, and I'm going to do it with you guys today. There's a difference between a good group share and a bad group share. A good group share is a very direct, clear, concise, to the point question that everyone could benefit from. A bad group share is an over-personalized situation that everyone is listening to, but not necessarily came from, because we all came here on how to execute our business plan. So this is the way you want to think through, whether it's this group or other people. Because the interesting thing is when people have very personal situations they do in large group settings, we always get emails from people that says, why this person do that? Or they view it as someone hijacked the call. So in an effort to continue to build community and better relationships with each other, sometimes we ask for personal situations, right? Like I'll say, hey, give me your personal situation. Let's walk through it so people can see an example. Today, we want to ask questions about the business plan and how we can execute it, and where you guys will get stuck, and like, what are your mental objections, right? Like, I get stuck doing blank, or I overthink blank, or I find this overwhelming because of blank, right? Those are the kinds of things you want to think about. So whoever wants to ask the first question, just hit yes in the chat, and then first come, first serve, and mute yourself. And we're just going to keep firing through these so that you guys can do what's necessary. Corey.
I get stuck not answering my phone in the morning when no matter what, I just can't not answer the phone.
So when the phone rings, Marsha's next. So when the phone rings, you don't have the discipline not to pick up the phone. Okay. So
anxiousness is so strong. I just can't do it.
You meditate?
I do not meditate.
Okay. Well, that's something you need to do. Look, and in the end, remember we talked about that compelling why in yesterday's session? Look, your why for what you're doing has to be so strong that it should make you cry, because you know what? The idea of not having what you want has to be greater than not answering the phone. And then the subsequent thing is people are calling you. You need to start cataloging what they're calling you about, and then you need to start proactively building it into your sales process. Make sense? And then if you can't, and then for you, if you can't answer your phone, everybody, and it's like too much for you, which is completely understandable, when you're doing busy work, you need to take your phone and you need to put it in the other room and give it to your admin and say, in an hour, give me my phone back no matter what I tell you. And set a special ringtone for your family members, like people that are like top priority, that no matter what happens, they call. Just set a different ringtone, and your admin will know that if this ringtone rings, to pick it up, answer the phone, and interrupt whatever I'm doing. Simple. And you'll be anxious the first time. You'll be uncomfortable. It's like the same thing as taking a cold shower. No matter how often you do it, it still sucks. But it's good for you in the end. All right. Are you clear? All right, cool. Marsha, you're next.
I get stuck because you're giving us so much great information. And when I'm trying to create whatever it is that we're working on, for example, when we were doing the financials, it took a tremendous amount of time to really put it together, thoughtfully, and, digging the bottom of the deck. And by the time that gets done, we're working our day, and then you're on to 4 other things. So I feel like I've created gaps in trying to do what you're asking us to do and keep up.
Okay, so that's a good question. And you know what she's really saying? Do I really need to do everything you're saying? And the answer is no, right? So like in a group setting, there's hundreds of you. So it's like going to a menu and feeling like you have to order everything on the menu. That's overwhelming, right? You only order one appetizer and you order one entree and one dessert. So the thing is you come here and listen because there's a value in hearing good information, being in training, have somewhere to go. You don't get lost in your own thoughts. We talk about that golden triangle of, mindset coaching, how to think through things, performance coaching, the art of getting things done, and tactical things like we give you the things to do and how to do them, right? So when you hear something that you like, you need to see how it aligns with what your priorities are at the time. And then if it's something great, you just literally put it in a spreadsheet. And when you have time to get to it, you get to it, right? But like doing something like the money thing is like a foundational pillar of your business. Just because you hear me say it today does not mean you have to do it today. Right. So when people say things to us like, well, I've gone through the 10 by 10 challenge and all this stuff, I want to implement it. But yeah, that training was done a year ago and the market's changed. Like, it doesn't make sense. Part of this is, and we're going to start doing this next year, is starting to teach people, I realize, on how to actually come to these sessions, what to think about them, how to prioritize their work. You don't have to do everything, right? But in coming here, things become aware to you, right? Like, oh, wow, I never thought of that. But that doesn't mean you stop everything you're doing. And that's why having your plan is really important. Like, what skills you're working on, what you're cataloging. And then if what I'm saying today correlates to that, that's fine. Like, a couple different things for next year will be, one, we're going to release the entire 6 months of content in advance, right? So you'll know which sessions to go to. Two, the recap emails will have all the deliverables and stuff like that, where literally you can look at the email, even if you didn't attend a session, like, all right, this makes sense of what I want to do. And like, for us, the way we think about it is everyone invests time and resources. So it doesn't take much to get an ROI over an entire year of a few things we give you that work. But the goal is finding those high value things that you need the most in your business and getting those complete, getting them implemented, feeling comfortable, and then adding on to it. It's not drinking out of a fire hose, right? I go to trainings too all the time. I don't do everything that they say. I'm there for a specific purpose. And then I find the things that align with my purpose, and then I reprioritize them for later down the line. Does that help make it clear for you?
I had unmute. It really does. And I really want to thank you. And I'm sure everyone in the group appreciates that we're going to have access to all of the materials ongoing, because some of them are pertinent no matter what the market is.
Yeah. Well, look, you guys, I always say the people that come first always deserve the most. Right? Like, going forward, that won't be the case for anyone who's joining the new groups. So look, in the end of doing this, like, when I look at the economy next year, it's either like, when you think of chess, it's like protecting the king versus protecting the queen. And I find real estate agents will protect the king, which is really their bank account, right? And business owners will protect the queen, because the queen is really the most valuable piece on the chessboard. It is the most versatility. It can do the most different things. It can create the most opportunity. And when I think about businesses and protecting the queen, it's that monthly run rate of your business. That is the most expensive thing that you have, is that monthly rate of your life in your business. And every month that goes by that you're like trying to figure something out, it always far exceeds the cost of investing in yourself and having somebody help you. That is literally the way that we've made decisions as a company and how we've grown so fast. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff 2.5 years ago, like none of it, right? Like, but as you see, our programming, things improve. We hire more people. We're hiring 2 more new roles. We'll have a tools trainer here by the end of January. We'll have another program manager. They'll be able to organize this and help this be better for you. But this is advice that we get from other people. Like, I'm not concocting every idea myself. I also know that what I'm learning in my business is the same thing as your business. Right. So learning, like we shared, and learning, guys, how to think through things differently is the most important thing that you could do. Right. Because if you approach your business, your investments, how you choose to spend your time, what you execute, your time blocks, essentially those promises you make to yourself the same way, nothing is going to change for you. You're just going to go back to all your bad habits. Right. So I find you constantly need to remind people of this, because you're literally reprogramming a brain that's worked decades in a certain way. So it takes constant reconditioning. It takes other people to do it with you. So you're like, okay, I'm just not the only one. Who's next? Let's see. It's cloudy and gloomy in Chicago. Turn the ringer off. I just found a way to set a timer on Instagram. Yes, there are social media timers. Busy work, focus on setting up the phone. Douglas and then Tiffany. Is there a way that we can get the KPI source of deals all in one Excel sheet. Okay. So the KPI source of deals, the whole deal sourcing comes from that data spreadsheet, right? The one that Kate made. It'll tell you what your main sources are if you put all your deals in there. And then it'll more importantly tell you what percentage of your GCI comes from each source. Because then you can understand the correlation of where your money is coming from and where you're actually spending money. A lot of times we all spend money on things that are new and exciting because that's how our brain works. But really, literally 80% of most of your businesses come from people that you know, but are you spending money on gifts and events and touches and investing time? And that's how you start filling the gap and really growing. It's doing more of work, what works, and going deep into it, right? I see Lorraine nodding her head like, yes, 100%. Tiffany, what do you got?
Sorry, screen was too big and I couldn't find mute. Okay, so kind of a focus question, but like through everything we've been working on, my biggest goal was to increase my price point, right? So my average home price. And then yesterday I get a referral, like a guy from a neighborhood wants me to sell his home, 200,000. So using all the data, like, what is your advice? I know, I mean, we've worked through this all year and yet I'm like, well, I'm just going to do it because he's such a nice guy. And I don't have a ton of business at them. I mean, I do have a good amount, but I'm like, there's a paycheck.
Well, one, it's prioritizing things, right? So are you on a team? Do you have a team?
I have a team.
So then look, part of this is it's like the universe, you have to let things go, right? And you got to remember that too, the lower price point people generally take up the most time, right? Because the higher the price point is, more likely they're going to make better business decisions, right? And the surplus of excess capital people have makes it easy for people to let go of things. So you're in a market that's changing and everything else that could be super nice. But like, look, it also sets a message to your whole team. Like, I'm here as a contributor. I'm moving away from this. And you have to say no. Like, look, financially, if you have to do it, you have to do it, right? But the real question is, do you really have to do it? Is it no? Then you have to pass the lead on. And what you need to work on is how to share that in a meaningful way with other people that they feel good about it.
Okay. And my team is based on like location. So I don't have another person on my team that could do this because it would be, I'm the only one in Northwest.
Well, then you just partner with them. You give them, you do the 20% of the negotiating and stuff and have them do all the busy work.
Yeah, still wouldn't work. Like just 3 partners in 3 different parts of the city. So they're not going to want it either.
And then now you know you need to hire another agent that does this kind of stuff with you. Which
I'm working on. Okay.
Good.
But thank you. I think I just needed to hear you say, do you need it? No. Prioritize on your goal.
No.
Go.
Exactly. And that's really a good way to think about this, right? That's a good question for everybody. Julie, unmute yourself. Maybe when the meeting days weren't back to back, allowing the time to apply new things are easier.
It's not, that's just a little observation.
So really what you want to do is we're asking you to come here at minimum 2 times a week for 30 minutes, right? So you should have a block in your calendar for an hour a week to do what you learned in coaching.
I just was responding to the person who talked about wanting to implement, like when it used to be, if it was Monday and Thursday and there was a new skill or tactic or something on Monday, you might time block to try it. And then if you had a question about it, I just was wondering if the back-to-back was making it harder for people to implement or no. It was.
Look,
it wasn't earth shattering. It was just a question.
But that's a good question for everybody. So the question is, if we have meetings on Mondays and Tuesdays, how do we prioritize implementing what we learned? Right. So you show up to the session. If it's something in alignment with your plan and what you're doing, you put it in your calendar either for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to do. But whatever that day is, you have a standing block that says coaching implementation set on your calendar for the week. You got to remember, business building and investing in yourself is the core of how you grow. So if you can't set time to make those calls to people, emails, touches, and you don't have time to implement, grow, and work on your skills, your business is never going to change. You're just going to keep going through this hamster wheel. Lisa said, what was the question? The question is that, I think I just pronounced your name wrong, so sorry. The question is like, how do I implement stuff if the coaching's back to back? So I'm saying like you can take a breather Wednesday, either Thursday or Friday, put an hour, a standing block in and do the things that align with your schedule. Let's see. Cool name. All right. Who's next? Is this helpful for everyone to hear how to like really think through this? If it's not, you can tell me. Believe me, I won't be offended. I'm just going to start calling them random people. Dina, what do you got?
I think I have problem in implementing, but I try to come to the Monday and Tuesday calls, and I do get good information, and I try to add things to what I do, my systems now in place. So I don't know, but I do get a lot of good
You have a hard
information.
time implementing.
Mhm.
Implementing how?
Some of the things that you do, like, later on in the week, when like on a Thursday or a Wednesday, when you have, when you're doing like group sessions and stuff, when the coaches are doing the group sessions. So
already, this is a great question. We have access to all of these different things. I attend them and I can't implement them. So here's a rule of thumb. If you can't put a time block in for the session you're attending to do the work, then don't go.
mhm.
Right.
Well, I'm going to try to going forward for next year. I'm going to be more thoughtful about everything regarding the coaching. And, I think I had to dip my toe in this past 6 months. I've never had coaching before. So, I wanted to kind of see what it was like, and I liked it. I need to, really do it. Some of the things more, not everything, but things that work for me.
Here's another thing to think about, right? Like if you're considering, like we have taught, like, for principal agents, we have courses on how to build a team. Well, if you're unsure about how to build a team, you're not doing it, that's a good thing to just go and listen, not listen to act, right? Because you're learning about something new. So one of the things that I now know to do from hearing from all of you is every day have a constant reminder, is what we're doing today in alignment with your plan? Do you have an accountability partner? Are you prioritizing your schedule? And that will go on to my ongoing daily reminders, because that sounds like a common challenge for a lot of us. Like, what do we do with the information we have? Right? Because to every person that says to me, well, I have all this stuff I need time to implement, I'm like, if you didn't implement it with us, the statistical probability of you doing it on your own goes down. And then you add the other layer that says, well, this was made for a low inventory market. Now I have to make it for a high interest rate or changing market, right? So then there's an additional step for people to do. And then they just go back to doing the same thing because they get confused, overwhelmed, and unsure. And they don't want to say the wrong thing. So like, look, simple formula. Show up to the session. Is this in alignment with what's in my plan and what I'm working on? Yes, great. Then I'm going to do this in the time block I set for an hour later in the week to implement it. I'm going to a new session. Am I going to listen or listen to act? Great. Like, am I going to put this in my hour this week? Right. So if you start thinking about it that way, it's going to get much easier for all of you. Because what happens is if you have a time block and you don't approach it with like purpose and intention, then you end up on your email, answering the phone, also because you don't know what to do.
Helpful.
So Luciana said, I get overwhelmed with too much information. There's no such thing as too much information. There's a lack of being able to plan what to do with the information. If I cut this down to 1 day a week, everyone would say, like, why am I only meeting you once a week? Right. So it's like a dozen one way, two half dozen the other way. But it's just, we're giving you notes. Next year, we'll give you what to do from each session. Like each session will have a form of an action item. And this way, you'll see how it fits in with your plan. Who is next? I've learned I need to be specific with my time block so I can move directly into the action, not have to overthink it. 100%, Linda. You don't have to do it all. I guess that helps everybody. Let's see. Who am I going to call on? Diana in Cape Cod. You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I did. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
all smiles.
So I liked the question earlier about, handing off business. And that's probably one of my biggest problems is trying to figure out where to send business and how to frame that as the team leader to not feel like I'm slighting these folks, my clients. So if they have something that's say under 500,000, and I'm also trying to get my price point up, how do I frame that? Is there something I can say, or anybody, the whole group can say to make the blow a little less? Like, I don't really have time for you, and this is below my price point. I'm going to have my team work on this for you, this listing or this buyer.
So
You
what
see
you
what I'm
need to do, what you need to do is share this concept of a collaborative versus captive experience. And you literally need to rebuild your value proposition where you take the appointment
Okay.
and you go back down to the 80-20, where really you're just getting the pitch and you're doing the negotiations and everything else. And you're going to say, the way that you phrase it is, you're going to say, in working with an agent, are you looking for a captive or collaborative experience? You're going to say, who the hell wants to be held captive willingly, right? So they're going to say, no, I want a collaborative experience. And you got to remember, we have to frame these things in a way that makes sense to them. Like, if there's anything I learned over the last 2 years is that we still have COVID and anyone can get sick. And it is a personal liability I'm creating for you if I'm the only one that has access to information. So the way that we do it is we always work with multiple team members on the deal. So you're getting additional service. You're having access to a better experience because we're all specialists in each things. And I'm focused on this. This person's focused on that. My admin might be focused on this. You put 3 people's pictures on the page and what each person does for them, because that's role clarity, right? It needs to be clear to them who does what. And then when you hand it to them, say, look, if you're interviewing other agents, just understand, like, this is something you should think about. And I want you to do what's best for you. And people always go back to, oh, wow, it's true. Because no one ever thinks about if they just hire one person and somebody can get sick. Now, mind you, this is what you do if you have a team. If you're an individual, there's a whole different talk track that you can use and share and everything like that. But this is the way to effectively share team members because it's making it a benefit to them. Remember the 7 effective keys of communication? It always has to be in their benefit.
But what if the person says to you, well, will you be, if I know that they're sort of not on board with the team?
Well, then this is where you have to learn to say no or decide if high value enough person in your network and would they refer you to do it.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Listen, a big part of her question that everyone needs to realize is you need to learn who to say no to, right? And how to draw a boundary. You can never have the business and life you want if you're just doing whatever else wants you to do because you're in sales. Because people that are clients, and listen to this really carefully, people that are clients are going to dictate to you on how you do your job to get results will never be happy with what you do. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're
I can't
totally
go
right.
to a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer and then tell them how to do the work. They tell me then if that's the case, like, go do it yourself or go somewhere else. Right.
No,
And then
totally
when you do
right.
that, I would ask the question is, hey, you seem very clear on how you want this to go. What specifically do you value in having an agent versus doing it on your own? I would just put it right back on.
Okay.
And then I'd ask them this next question. Well, we have confidence in you and your system and everything. Great. So do you think I could be able to get you the same results that I'm telling you I could get if I didn't follow the system that I do with all my clients? No. So then it's the choice. Do you want to work within, how we're able to get success or find an agent that's just going to do what you want, which is not what I recommend.
Okay.
There are ways to do this. Yeah, Bob has a great point. You fire clients and say no. There's nothing to do with price point. Remember, you guys are people. You guys have feelings. You guys have families. You guys have spouses, partners, dogs, cats, whatever it is. You guys are human beings. The way that some of these clients treat real estate agents is disgusting. You have to stop allowing people to treat you this way. And it starts with having more self-respect and value for what you do. We have to stop walking around with scarcity mindset. The world's never going to end. If you do these simple things we tell you every day, over time, you'll never be in one of these positions. Never. But salespeople end up in bad positions because they have bad habits. They answer their phone. They can't follow time blocks. They don't set the time aside. And look, ask questions, right? When we're in these sessions next year, if you're stuck, be like, I feel like this is overwhelming. Like, these are the things that you should like send in our community chat, and people will engage with you and say, hey, this is how I'm doing it. Lean in more to other people. Julie, you have a question?
Sorry, I don't think I meant to raise my hand, but
Yeah.
along those lines, I will say that when I was young and starting to date people, not very many people wanted to date me, if I'm really being honest. My mother always said to me, it is your job to teach. She was kind of sexist. She was talking about men. She's like, it's your job to train or teach men how you wish to be treated. And I feel like with clients, it's the same thing. If you're in a bad relationship, personal relationship, you're probably tolerating behavior you shouldn't tolerate. It's really not the same in our type of business relationship, which is a very one-on-one relationship. And if you're being treated like shit by a client, know your worth. You don't deserve it. You wouldn't stay in a bad marriage. Don't stay in a bad business relationship. Move on. You'll feel good about yourself if you do that.
And by the way, the people that treat you like this are generally want discounted commissions. They want to overprice their home, and they just want you to keep spending money on marketing and doing open houses. And it is your job. Like, you either, the way that I believe it, just very similar, and I teach my kids the same thing. You either have to train people on how to treat you and what your standards and expectations are, or you're going to react to how other people feel.
Happy people are not
really
mean. They're not. Happy
Yeah.
people are not mean. So don't get pulled into someone else's misery. Just don't. You're worth more.
And, you know, it's always like, I would say parenting is a giant science experiment that you hope you don't get wrong in the end. And it's funny. My kids still tell me, well, Daddy, you told me. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, you can't, like, I need to make him sign forms. Like, you can't practice this stuff. I'm omitted from it. And look, in the end, I see some people smiling and laughing. And I'll tell you this, life is such a precious thing. And when you think about things and you think about time, it's your most valuable thing. Like, I've shared with you that recently I got divorced, and I'm like a sicko with math and stuff. But like, look, by the time your kids are 18 years old, 90% of the time's gone with them, right? So my son's 9, that's 45%. I have him half the time. That's 22.5% of every day that goes by that I'm going to spend with him for the entire time of the rest of his life, because that 90% number is gone. So when you think about these time blocks and your phone ringing, Corey, I know you have a young child, like, this is what you think about, right? Like, really understand how precious every moment and every day is. Like, and when you think about your phone ringing, every minute you spend into these things that you don't need to do, you're literally taking them away from the things that are most important in your life. Like, at the end, like Brendan Bouchard, he's like a great personal development person. And he's a story, he got in an accident and he almost died, right? Like, he just broke up with his girlfriend who was in a bad place. He went to another country, his car flipped traveling on these cliffs. And he was sitting there like bleeding, didn't know if he was going to die. And he asked himself 3 questions. Did I live? Did I love? And did I matter? Because at the end of the day, all you're left with in life is those 3 things and the memories you have. So the question is every day, what are you doing to build memories? How are you connecting with the people you want the most? This business could give you the most freedom in the world. The example I always use is one of my dear friends and clients, Ben Moss. Ben's the National Director of Sports and Entertainment. He works with high-end athletes and celebrities and sells mostly like all upscale homes. Ben lives in Stowe, Vermont from June to October and left his market. And he has some of the most high-touch clients out of anyone I work with. And I share that because this business can create limitless possibilities if you allow it to. You only have 18 summers with your kids, right? So think about that. And the older they get, the less they want to hang out with you, right? So how many summers do you really have where they really want to do stuff? And look, I don't want anyone to feel bad or anything, but I always share this context. It's what makes people think. right? And if anyone could learn anything from my experience, other people's experience, please do. So again, for all of you, just thank you for smiling, turning your cameras on, engaging, being authentic, being vulnerable, and really being a yes to someone that literally invests the time and resources to better the service of others. Right. So we promise that we'll never stop working for you because I work for you. Our team is going to keep growing and they're going to keep giving you more. And it is my sole purpose to make sure that all of you have the best year humanly possible. So thank you. And the business plan, Suze will answer that. So Suze, for everyone here that wants to stay on for a second, she'll drop the business plan template in here. And look, everybody, it is a wonderful world, a wonderful life. It's the holidays. Just enjoy it. It doesn't matter what the hell's happening because you can't control it. You can control what you do. You can control your schedule. You can control your time blocks. Tell you what, you can't have the Christmas back. So when Christmas comes and those days are time to disconnect, try to have a goal of being on screen time 2 hours or less. So as always, the love in my heart, I love you all. You guys are all special, unique, amazing people. And now go share your awesomeness with the world. Bye, everybody.